Hello, this is Steve Sheev Shinder, and I will be reviewing the second arc of Jason Aaron's Star Wars, Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon. But first, I'll let you know when we get into the spoilers, but first, this is Delusions of Granular. You can find our episodes at delusionsofgranular.com. And we also have a Twitter handle, SWDOG77, Facebook page, facebook.com/SWDOG. You can email us at swdog77@gmail.com or leave us a message at 651-337-9364. And you may end up having your message played or read on the show if you want. We also are on iTunes and Stitcher, so review us and tell your friends. So, I'll be giving you the lowdown on Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon, the second arc of Jason Aaron's Star Wars comic series. The title sounds like it could be a reference to the trope Showdown at high noon, which is basically the showdown between a couple of cowboys with guns in the middle of towns in Western movies. I cannot recall anything like that in this arc, but you may have seen a couple of showdowns like that once or twice in Rebels with Sabine. Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon pretty much takes place right after Skywalker strikes. The Han and Leia story continues right from where we left them, in the Monsua Nebula, where they met Sana, a woman who claims to be Han's wife. That story thread drags on throughout the arc, with no explanation for the Sana Solo question until Part 4. And it was frustrating because I was reading these issues month to month, but now that the arc is finished, you could read the whole thing and it'll be less frustrating. But the Luke side of the story made it well worth reading. Luke has retrieved Kenobi's journal from Tatooine and read at least some of it. Though the first journal entry is in the trade paperback for this arc, I've already discussed it and will only focus on the arc itself in this episode. As is consistent with the character, Luke is hungry for more knowledge about the Jedi and wants to go to yet another Jedi temple. Now remember, by this point he has gone to the Jedi temple on the planet Edit in the book The Weapon of a Jedi. But he wants to go to the Jedi temple we've seen in the movies, the one on Coruscant. And that fact alone opened up the speculation side of my mind. While the arc does not go where I had hoped it would based on this information, I feel that it is a step up from Skywalker Strikes. And while I prefer the first arc of Darth Vader over the first arc of Star Wars, I prefer the second arc of Star Wars over the second arc of Darth Vader, Shadows and Secrets. I definitely feel that this one finished stronger than Shadows and Secrets. Judging from the last scene of this arc, I would say that this takes place before Darth Vader, Shadows and Secrets, even though both arcs were being released at the same time. So, again, if you're reading all these all together in trades or whatever, it'll be less confusing. There are also some nice prequel references in this arc, which are very fascinating. Alright, so now spoiler area, or whatever. I'd been waiting forever for this issue, ever since Sana claimed to be Han's wife. And I guess that maybe she was probably lying. So, in this issue, it is amusing hearing Leia saying, "unbelievable," after Han claims that Sana is a better shot than he is. Because, the fans don't want to believe that anyone can shoot better than Han, right? Sana says that she is going to turn Leia into the Empire. The TIE bombers and fighters of which approach the world. I loved seeing Leia pull a hidden pistol out of her boot to point it at both Han and Sana, because, again, it reiterates just how headstrong she is. This early on, it seems reasonable for her to assume that Han is working with Sana to turn her into the Empire. I mean, you gotta remember, this might be weeks or even months after Episode 4, and I guess, yeah, Leia could jump to that sort of conclusion, that Han may be a double agent or something. Meanwhile, Luke and R2-D2 have gone to Nar Shaddaa, where Luke hopes to find someone to smuggle him to Coruscant so he can visit the Jedi Temple. I'm guessing he didn't ask Han to do this job for him because I guess by this point they're really good friends and he doesn't want to risk Han's life. Or, I don't know, maybe he knows that Han is busy at the moment and is just very eager to go to Coruscant. So, in short, a bar fight ensues, Luke ignites his lightsaber, and his lightsaber gets stolen. Now, since I was reading these issue by issue, I also read the letters section at the end. At the end of this one, there was a letter in which the writer teased that Hu Yang, the artifact droid who taught Jedi younglings about lightsabers and was voiced by David Tennant in the Clone Wars, is still alive. I have no doubt that Luke will eventually meet him on Coruscant. I'm just not sure when. In part 2, again, this is a 5-part arc, and it's Star Wars issues 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in issue 9, which is part 2 of Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon, it's cool seeing Leia shoot at Imperials, but the explanation of Sana Solo gets pushed back, which is really annoying. But in the meantime, Luke regains his lightsaber and ends up facing Gracchus the Hutt, who seems more menacing than Jabba, what with him being taller and possibly stronger in the fist at very least. So, like General Grievous, Gracchus has Magna Guards and collects Jedi memorabilia. I wonder whether Gracchus sounds too much like Grievous. I mean, maybe they could have given him a different name, but I've grown used to hearing this name for this Hutt. So he has this collection of Jedi memorabilia, but it's more than just lightsabers like Grievous had. This Hutt has an entire collection of Jedi artifacts, including a holocron. Luke acknowledges that he is trying to use the Force to activate it, a little foreshadowing reference to Yoda's famous quote that he has yet to hear. When he activates it, he sees hologram recordings of various Jedi. One of them says that the holocron contains the teachings of Master Finn La Wo of the Jedi Temple on Vrogus Voss. I wondered whether or not this could be referring to the very first Jedi and their very first temple, but The Force Awakens seems to shoot down that theory. So, amidst these holograms, there's a Jedi who looks like Jedi Master Oppo Rancisis, saying anger leads to hate, but he might have still been killed on Saliu Kamai prior to Revenge of the Sith, as the Republic Comics and Legends dictates. So this could be him before the events of Revenge of the Sith, or maybe it's someone else of the Jedi Order of his species during the attack on the Jedi Temple. I'm not really sure. There also appears to be a Bothan Jedi, and the biggest surprise to me is Shakti. And she says, "Whoever is seeing this, it's up to you now. Don't let our deaths have been in vain. Don't let this be the end of the Jedi. That might be a horrible Shakti impression, admittedly, but I thought it was interesting how it showed her, like, so there's this deleted scene, the scene that was deleted from Revenge of the Sith. It wasn't on the DVD, where she's in the Jedi Temple and Vader walks up behind her and stabs her through the torso with his lightsaber. And where was I going with this? The Yoda arc at the end of the Clone Wars Season 6 seemed to imply that Shakti would be killed by Vader in the temple, because Yoda has this vision of the Jedi getting killed in pretty much the same way that they do in Revenge of the Sith. And I wonder whether or not this confirms it, but it's kind of weird because in the deleted scene, or at least in the picture of the deleted scene, it seems like Shakti was just meditating and then Vader snuck up on her and stabbed her. But this makes it seem like she was totally aware of what was going on. I mean, she's standing, has her eyes open, so maybe Vader does kill her, just not when she's meditating. Maybe she gets a more epic death. It's really interesting how Shakti's fate is kind of up in the air. I mean, there's that deleted scene on the Revenge of the Sith DVD where Grievous kills her on the flagship, but of course it got cut, so it's not canon. And in the video game The Force Unleashed, it's Starkiller who kills her on Fallujah a couple of years before A New Hope. But that's considered Legends, so Shakti's fate, I guess, it's still up for debate. But Gracchus also informs Luke that the Jedi Temple has been converted into the Imperial Center. This was mentioned in the novel Tarkin, which also makes a reference out of the blue to the fact that the temple was built on top of a Sith shrine, something that would have been explored in the Clone Wars had the show not been cancelled. I feel like there may be some plan for this, and I hope to learn more about the shrine someday. But getting back to this comic, Mon Mothma and General Dodonna hear about Luke's capture via a distress signal sent by R2, and are reluctant to spend so much effort saving just one man, regardless of how heroic he has been. I love how it ends with Chewie volunteering himself and a nervous C-3PO to save Luke. It's about time that they got back in the story. Part 3 left me very curious about Luke's opponent, who is armed with a lightsaber. It seems like Gracchus wants to pit Luke in a fight in this arena, and possibly even capture Darth Vader. And, they make it clear that Luke will be fighting something really big in the issue after this one. My initial guess is that it would be a Gundark. We kind of see the silhouette of the creature in its cage, and Gundarks seem as big. Like, you don't really see the shape of the creature, but I thought either a Gundark or a new creature entirely, and it would end up being a new creature. Other really great highlights in this issue include the team-up of Chewie and 3PO as they search for Luke on Nar Shaddaa, the former getting in a bar fight and throwing someone out of a window. Well, through a window, breaking through the glass. There is an interrogation scene where Chewie holds someone over the edge of a tall building, and then when 3PO isn't looking, he lets him go after getting information. And see, 3PO cracks me up because he believes that Chewie only let this person go figuratively speaking. Like, he's like, "Oh, you let him go, how kind of you," or something like that. Like, Chewie let him off the hook, but really Chewie just let go of his grip on the person, causing them to fall. I think something might have broken that person's fall, if I recall correctly. It's also fun seeing Chewie pull droid arms out of their sockets at long last. Maybe he practiced during the Clone Wars against some battle droids. At the end, there's this appearance, like, you see a Gungan who has an eye patch, if I remember correctly, and he's in the underworld on Nar Shaddaa, and he looks for Dengar and kind of tells him what's up. And I was kind of surprised to see Dengar, but I don't know. I feel like including him sort of reinforces the notion that there are very few bounty hunters in the galaxy. And to be honest, at this point, I'm actually more interested in the new Gungan character's life in the underworld. So, if you've read the second issue of Obi-Wan and Anakin, you may have also spotted another Gungan, but in the Coruscant underworld. And I would love to read a miniseries about Gungans in the underworld. I never had much of a problem with the Gungans as a people. Some of them are very skilled warriors, and they're not all as clumsy as Jar Jar. In Part 4, Dengar fighting Chewie is not that exciting, because we both know that they're both gonna come out alive. And at one point, there's an explosion on Chewie's back that burns no hair off of him. And something like this also happens in the Chewbacca miniseries. So, it seems unrealistic that he doesn't have that much hair loss from these explosions, but at the same time, it's like, you can't really do much damage to Chewie, because we've seen how he looks in the other films. On the upside, we finally get a delayed answer to the Sana Solo situation. Leia sort of doesn't want to hear Han say anything and locks herself in a room in the Falcon. And she might not have heard this, but Han reveals that Han's like trying to set the record straight, and he says that he and Sana pretended to get married as a distraction for a heist. So, there you have it. You finally have the truth that Han does not get married. So, but, yeah, pretty much what I had predicted. And for all we know, maybe this marriage, or fake marriage, will end up in the Han Solo movie prequel. Or, I don't know, I'm not really sure when this fake marriage was supposed to take place. I mean, if it takes place during the Han Solo prequel, then I guess Sana's been holding a grudge for a really long time. Meanwhile, Luke fights a large cybernetic creature from Mustafar, which sadly is not given a species name, but it is given the name Congo the Disemboweler. The Game Master seems to be secretly working against Gracchus the Hutt. He communicates with someone about Luke's whereabouts and identifies himself as Agent 5241. After doing some research, it seems to me that this might be a shout out to Donald Pleasance's character, SEN 5241, from THX 1138. You know, one of George Lucas's old movies prior to Star Wars. So it's nice to see that the THX references are branching out. I mean, in the movies and the shows and all across Legends, there are just so many references to the number 1138, and honestly, it's ridiculous. It's like way too coincidental. And anyway, I was very curious to find out who Agent 5241 was. He seemed to be working for the Empire, but I also speculated that maybe he'd be Quinlan Voss, since we don't know that Jedi's fate after the Clone Wars. The final issue is quite an action-packed issue. I'm not a big fan of the confrontation with Dengar, but I liked seeing Chewie throw him, but the explosion was a bit much, knowing that he survives. But anyway, the Falcon is here. Han and Leia reunite with Chewie and 3PO. But the arena is where all the really great stuff happens. And it's very reminiscent of the arena battle of Attack of the Clones, which in turn seems to be an homage to this arena scene in A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Luke faces Congo the Disemboweler, whose shock collar is activated by the Game Master, revealed to be a stormtrooper named Sergeant Creel. I'm not sure how I feel about his name. It sounds too much like Krell, Pong Krell, that Jedi in the Clone Wars who hated clones and was Dexter Jettster's species. But anyway, Gracchus feels betrayed when more troopers arrive. So he activates an EMP that deactivates all blasters. It is humorous when one trooper thinks that taking down the Hutt will be easy, but Gracchus has more physical prowess than other Hutts. Audience members even start betting on Gracchus, and is absolutely hilarious. They're like, I'll bet credits on Gracchus, and I think one of them even bets that Gracchus will eat one of the troopers or something. I don't know, it was really funny. Creel realizes too late that the EMP deactivated the shock collar on Congo, who goes after him. Meanwhile, R2 comes across Gracchus's collection of lightsabers, and I cannot help but wonder whether or not they belong to any familiar Jedi we've seen before. Social media had already spoiled for me that Leia, Han, and Chewie would be wielding lightsabers, but at least that was not even the best part of this. I'm actually okay with them using lightsabers since they don't automatically get force powers. I mean, that would have been jumping the gun. In Legends, Leia uses a lightsaber to fight Darth Vader in Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and that seemed like a stretch. Even if she was force sensitive, she had no training at all at that time. Here, it just feels like she's wielding a lightsaber to stay alive, but perhaps not using it that proficiently. At one point, Luke says that Han looks good with a lightsaber, and Han says a witty remark about trying hard not to cut his own face with a lightsaber. And Chewie wields 2 lightsabers, which is pretty cool. I worry that this may be the only time that we'll ever get to see Leia with a lightsaber in canon. I would like to see her with one and using Force abilities in the years following the original trilogy, like in Legends, even if she's not on the Jedi path in canon. When more stormtroopers arrive with working blasters, Han takes Luke to the Falcon, even though Luke wants to get the rest of the Jedi artifacts. And Leia comes across Sana Starros and shows mercy to her. So Sana reveals her last name is Starros and reveals that the wedding was a scam for robbery that Han had taken off with her cut, hence why she was after him. And she kind of vanishes after this issue, but it seems like she will return in Rebel Jail, which is a Star Wars arc that takes place after Vader Down. I'm just glad that Han's history was not altered drastically. So Creel manages to defeat Congo, if I remember correctly, and also capture Gracchus and take him to Vader with the Jedi artifacts. And Vader also crushes a holocron with his own hand, which I thought was really cool. So after this, the events of Darth Vader, Shadows, and Secrets take place. I was left wondering what becomes of Gracchus after his imprisonment. I even went so far as to speculate that Andy Serkis' character in The Force Awakens, Supreme Leader Snoke, would actually be Gracchus, because I'd heard that he'd be playing a tall character. Could you imagine the Hutts taking over the Empire? But alas, that turned out not to be true. I wish that the films would have minor references to the comics. There's also that last picture of Luke all alone with Kenobi's journal, sitting with his head down and looking defeated. I really feel sorry for him in that moment. He did not get to Coruscant, nor did he salvage the entire collection of Jedi artifacts, but he did learn a bit from the journal and about what became of the temple on Coruscant, and the existence of Vrogas Vas' temple. While the ruins of that temple are shown in Vader Down, he really does not have time to explore them in that story. So I keep wondering, in the grand scheme of Luke's personal story, whether or not he would view this as 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward and 2 steps back. But as much as I did want to see Luke go to Coruscant, meet Hu Yang, learn more about lightsaber building, and discover the Sith Shrine, it seems like it would have been too easy for him to have done all of that at this stage of the war. You would think that Coruscant would have so much security, especially with Palpatine being there all the time. I would think it'd be safest for him to go to Coruscant and deal with all of this in the post-Return of the Jedi era. But will Jason Aaron's series get that far? Will it even get to the era between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? It might make sense for Luke to discover the Sith Shrine in that particular era and doubt Kenobi's teachings for a while. Shadows of the Empire suffered, in my opinion, by not showing a Luke with a faltering faith after learning that he has been lied to by Kenobi, whom he respected. Alright, so that's the lowdown on Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon. So again, I really loved this arc. I feel like it had a lot of great things going for it. Definitely finished strong. I know some people think that some elements were ridiculous, but I was okay with that. So next time I will review Vader Down, which is an arc that sort of crosses over between, next time I'll be reviewing Darth Vader, Shadows, and Secrets, which is the second arc of Darth Vader. And then I will review Vader Down, since that takes place right after that. Alright, so sorry about that. But yeah, that's the schedule for now, so subscribe to Delusions of Granular, keep a lookout for those reviews, as well as some things that Ron and JP will discuss. And stay granular, and may the Force be with you.